Dearest, beloved, divine friends, family, brothers, sisters, may the peace, blessings of God be with you this Sunday morning of January 10th, 2020. I know some of my friends have been asking, they have not seen Haji Dr. Ocean Khan since late last year, and they missed the wonderful world tomorrow. They miss my RK's Guyana Free Media. They miss my New Year's message that I would have normally sent out, like what I had done Christmas Eve night. But then things happen, you know, friends and families. I am not in the best of health, and these things happen. Incidentally, I have never been sick, not really sickness of any magnitude, of any major disease or anything of that sort. It's just that I was not right. And these things could happen with us, depending upon our bodies and the mood and the environment, and also not being properly meditating. And sometimes our body and our soul and our chakras, as is described in Sanatan Dharma and the ancient Vedas, the chakras are not in line. I think basically most of it was that. Then I started being out of sync and not in line, starting to having headaches and migraines and so on. And then the incessant rains, friends and families. The continued incessant rains. It's painful, and also it is very annoying and tiring. But when God has His work, I never complain about rains or anything of weather. Sometimes it's too much, all because of man's interference with nature. But look, it's the new year, and I want to wish one and all an extremely happy, most prosperous new year, Guyana. With our new government, I'm seeing so many great things possibly happening. For how he's starting off right now, putting Maduro in his place of Venezuela, who wants to steal our lands and is testing the president of the United States elect for now, Biden. He really wants to be taught a lesson. And he thinks that because of his military capacity, he can threaten us. But not only that, using this so-called decree to change the mood and the bitterness of his people that they have planted in the hearts of their people during this time when he, Maduro, is in the worst of travails and hate internationally and in his country, where his people are virtually starving. And if it's not countries like Guyana, I don't know what would happen to them, but I am always grateful to Venezuela, because Venezuela was good to Guyanese when we went through our dictatorship that was caused by former President Lyndon Forbes Barrett, Samson Burnham, and the bannings and the bannings and the bannings, and the terror and the frustration and the racism and the hate and the closure of businesses, and they're trying to control everything through the ETV, and people lost their way and their life. But I really don't want to turn this topic or any other into a Burnham bashing or a PNC bashing thing. That was a thing of the past which created perpetual pain and which has damaged our people and our country perpetually. But the intention of Burnham was not to cause pain. He had a good intention, and I want to give credit for that, for those who cannot only hearing the negative. But we were not ready as a people. We were not ready. Like Che Guevara had said, you do not take revolution to a people who are not ready for revolution. He was talking about being sent by Fidel Castro to the country that it was not ready, unlike Cuba, which was ready for revolution. So you cannot take complete self-sufficiency automatically by an overnight decision like what they did with Gaisuku and close down their estates and cause torment overnight by decree, by policy, and cause crisis. But coming back to the fact that I see Guyana in good stead at this time in our life. I want to deal with the article in which President Dr. Irfan Ali is rejecting Maduro ridiculous decree. And I'm reading from the Kaichor News. Beg your pardon, STABROEK News. I normally read Kaichor a lot. STABROEK News, page 3, in which Ali rejects Maduro decree. President Irfan Ali has rejected the most recent declaration by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, which once again falsely claims the Essequibo was part of his country and territory. I must let you know, I'm using one of those new fancy type cameras, and I'm actually enjoying it a little bit. Look, I'm going to move, and it's moving with me. I'm going to move here now, and I'm going to sit, and it's moving with me. Very nice. Thank you, son, for your gift. My son, Rushad A.C. Lal, has presented me this gift. And this is RKU's Guyana Free Media in the Raw. And I'm your host, your brother, Haji Dr. Ocean Khan. On January 7th, the president of Venezuela issued a decree claiming for Venezuela's sovereignty and exclusive sovereign rights in the waters and seabed adjacent to Essequibo's coast, west of the Essequibo River. However, sovereignty over this coast and the land territory to which it is attached were awarded to Guyana in the 1899 arbitral award. Ali reminded in an address to the nation yesterday, Saturday 9th, here in Guyana. His Excellency President Dr. Irfan Ali is no ordinary man. Coupled with his partner, Vice President Barajak Deo, Brigadier Mark Phillips, and the masterful, artful cabinet that they have. Back to the article. In response to Maduro's action, Guyana has summoned the officer in charge of the Venezuelan embassy in Georgetown to a meeting and alerted the international community, including the CARICOM community and the Americas, of the danger to international peace and security that is being threatened by last Thursday's decree, which violates fundamental principles of international law. The officer in charge has been told to convey to the Venezuelan authorities in Caracas that in accordance with international law and its assertion of its sovereignty and territorial integrity of Guyana, Guyana rejects entirely the decree issued by President Maduro. Commentary. What do you expect? When a madman is making such kinds of ridiculous commentaries, what do you expect a brilliant president, Dr. Irfan Ali, a man of 2 PhDs from the University of the West Indies and 1 in urban planning? Ladies and gentlemen, I salute our president. The president went on to characterize Maduro's statement as a legal nullity, which will be respected by no state, least of all Guyana. He explained that by decreeing that the seas adjacent to Essequibo belong to Venezuela, Maduro violated at least 2 fundamental principles of international law. The first violation is that no state can unilaterally determine its international boundaries, whether they are land boundaries or maritime boundaries. The fixing of an international boundary under international law can only result from an agreement between the neighboring states or a binding determination by an arbitral court or arbitral tribunal. Ali explained. Obviously, Mr. Maduro is not a very wise man, sad to say, because if he was such a wise man, he would have known such things. But it takes our president, Dr. Irfan Ali, to educate and to teach him this reality. He went on to remind that under well-established rules of international law, there is a fundamental principle that the land dominates the sea. and therefore sovereignty and sovereign rights in the sea and seabed emanate from title to the land that forms the coast to which these seas and seabed are adjacent. And since Guyana is sovereign over the coast west of the Essequibo River as far as Punta Playa, it follows consequently that only Guyana can enjoy sovereignty and exclusive rights over the adjacent seabed. My dear beloved friends and family, it shows the brilliance of President Dr. Irfan Ali and his advisors, and I must credit Carl Greenwich, who is now a part of these things, for his wisdom and knowledge and for partnering with a true government of democracy voted for. And so, friends and families, we must face the fact that Guyana is a truly democratic nation and recognize, as I said before, Mr. Carl Greenwich for his wisdom and knowledge in these kinds of matters. Failing to acknowledge this doctrine was Maduro's second violation. Ali stressed that sovereignty over the land territory is precisely the issue that is before the International Court of Justice, at which on 18 December 2020 the court decided to resolve. Guyana is confident that the court will resolve the issue in its favor. And the issue, and this will necessarily also settle the issue of maritime rights in the adjacent sea and seabed. But under international law, this is now for the International Court of Justice to decide, he said. The President made the address in response to the announcement by the Venezuelan National Assembly that a special commission has been created for the defense of the Guyana Essequibo territory and territorial sovereignty. The commission is expected to lend legislative support to the academic and legal efforts which are part of the Bolivarian Republic's national movement in defense of the Essequibo territory. It will also support Maduro's attempt to resume negotiation as a means to resolve the controversy. Well, I was telling you I was trying this machine out, but somehow or the other, I went all the way around and maybe I put too much of pressure on it, friends and families. So, they're trying technically to force us into a negotiation to give us some land so he can to give them some land or some sea from our small country compared to the big one that they have, so he can pull wool over the eyes of his people. This is my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, in the despotism of President Maduro. And thanking the newly convened assembly for their support, Maduro declared, and I have to go to page 21. Remember, friends and family, this is in the raw. '15, 19, 20, 21. And here I am. Another good piece to read. Essequibo belongs to the Venezuelan men and women and promised to reclaim the area. That is what he's saying. And that's what they've been feeding wrongfully into the hearts and the minds of their people, my friends and family. The Venezuelan head of state has also written to the Secretary General asking that he urgently restart negotiations under the auspices of the Geneva Agreement. We believe that now more than ever it will be necessary to count on your goodwill, with your good offices in the broadest sense possible, to restart with the urgency that this controversy merits. The direct talks between Guyana and Venezuela with the aim of advancing towards a peaceful and beneficial understanding to both parties, his letter reads. Guyana, however, has moved on from the Secretary General and now maintains that it will continue in the path of peaceful resolution of this matter in keeping with international law and the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. Though Maduro administration has rejected this jurisdiction, Ali reminded that under international law the court the court's decision is final and legally binding on both Guyana and Venezuela. To my opinion, it's an act of cowardice to be afraid to face the court. When persons don't want to face the court and go in some kind of a negotiation, it's because they have a weak case. And so he wants to try to win over his people, friends and families, ladies and gentlemen. This is the aim of this thing here. Apparently, I did something and I affected the automatic movement. These things are very sensitive of the technique that moves the camera. It has long been a fundamental principle of international law that an international court, including the ICJ, has the competence to determine its own jurisdiction, as the ICJ did on December 18, 2020. Additionally, the United Nations Charter obligates all member states to comply with their obligations under international law, including as determined by the ICJ. Therefore, Venezuela does not have the right to reject the court's binding decision, he said. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'll skip a few paragraphs there. And I would just like to say that I'm very proud of our president and his government for trying to solve this matter now, as they're doing through the court. For many decades, I think since the era of Forbes Burnham, we were working on the Geneva Agreement of trying to come to a settlement, but because of the recalcitrance of Venezuela, not being so gluttonous and wanting to steal their land, and the idea they put in the heads of their people that 2/3 or so of Guyana belongs to them is totally ridiculosity. So from your friend, your brother, me, in the raw, in one of the first readings of this new year of 2021, I said that I love you, and I say it again, I care for you, my people, and let us work with the government of Guyana. Let us make it possible to talk to the opposition, and let us make it possible that we can work truly. But the opposition needs to win the hearts and minds of the government and the people. Of course, it seems to me that they've been listening because they've been very quiet. For whatever reason, they have been very quiet. They obviously realize the power of President Dr. Irfan Ali, Vice President Dr. Bara Jagdeo, Brigadier Mark Phillips as Prime Minister, and that they can't play with these people. So they have to take their corner with their bowl in hand, praying and begging for some kind of a recognition. Your friend, your family, me, your brother Haji, Dr. Roshan Khan, saying thank you for tuning in to this, the RK's Guyana Free Media, in the raw. Farewell, friends.